One car goes out, another car comes in. It is time to start on the new project. The project that you might have saw a little while ago. I posted it a few videos back. But the plan is with this car, for right now in my head anyways, it might change along the way. I always struggle with wanting to do a little bit more than necessary in this car. We'll just have to see what happens. So the paint job of the Acura TL series starts right now.
And now, you're watching the level of trust that you would have walking next to Alec Baldwin with the Colt 45 revolver channel of YouTube. Welcome to Bodie Vision.
Hey, so what is up and welcome, and thank you so much for joining me on yet another video. So with this car, I want to get right into it. The first thing that I want to do is the first thing that I do on any paint job of any car that comes in as a complete car. We got an Acura TL that we got going on. What's up? Who is this? Hello. Anyway, so the first thing that I want to do is start tearing down the car. I'm gonna focus on the back first. I want to get the lights off. There's a couple side markers. There's the side markers in the rear, the side markers on the fender. Also, for the fender to come off, we got to get the side skirts to come off, and the headlights got to come off, the bumper's got to come off. I want to take off the grill, yada yada yada. We got a lot of stuff to take off before we can actually even start the process of painting. So let's just go ahead and get right into it and get started. We got to remove some stuff. So now, just briefly, I wanted to talk about the door handles. The door handles in the front of the car, as you're taking off the door handles, there's a 10 that you need to get to that's very close to the door jamb. Now, in the actual door itself, there's a nice little circle that you can put a socket through. It's actually a 10mm socket, real standard on all the Hondas, and a lot of cars are like that. But either way, in the front, there's a little access hole. In the rear, there is not a access hole, so you have to get your hands in there and do all kinds of crazy stuff, or you could just make an access hole yourself. It is going to be behind the door panel anyways. So as you can see right here, I just took a little hole saw, drilled a hole. Now you can see I got it perfectly lined up with where it needed to be. And if I didn't, and I would have needed to enlarge that hole a little bit, that's really no big deal. It just needs to be big enough for you to be lined up, to get a socket on that nut, or on that bolt rather, and just get it ripped off. And when it's all said and done, just put a little bit of primer near that opening so that way it doesn't rust if you wanted to be a little bit more thorough. And then put the door panel back on. That hole is going to be covered, and it's no different than what's on the front of the car anyways. So that's just one thing. If you got little problems like that, it might seem a little bit extreme to cut an access hole in a car, but it's behind the door panel. It's going to make your job a lot easier, and I never hesitate to try to make my job easier if it's still done properly, because time is everything with a project like this. Those moldings are staying off. They're garbage. There's no holes there or anything either, which makes it easier on my end. So side skirts, door handles, tail lights, rear bumper, all of that's off now. I want to shift gears and go towards the front of the car. The fenders got to come off. For the fenders to come off, like I said, all these other pieces got to come off. The grill, I want to do some kind of cool custom stuff to the front end. I have some parts on the way. I think with this car, my main goal is this car is going to be a daily driver. What I'd want to do for this car to look as crazy as possible would be put it on some baller wheels and get the fitment perfectly dialed in with a little bit of stretch on the wheels and laid out, and then it would look really crazy. But I'm not going for that with this car. What I'm going for with this is I want it to be a nice, clean, comfortable daily with a few custom touches to really Boaty Vision the car out. So I'm really looking forward to show you some of the things that I have planned. But before those get here, let's just keep moving as we're waiting for those parts to arrive. I'll show you eventually. There's like hundreds of bolts on this car, dude. It's crazy. I'm not familiar with this car. It's a lot of tens to take off. Probably 30 on the fender. Under the cowl. Good. Good, Honda. I'm glad you left one for me right there. Now, I'm assuming it's because this car is like more luxurious. It has a lot more secure panels. A lot of pain in my ass. And the reason why I wanted to take everything off is because of this right here. That needs to come off for me to sand, prep, and paint. I know you could just tape around it, but I don't like doing stuff like that. Turns out better if you take it off. Here we go, an hour later. Now it's time for the other side. Now at this point, now that everything is off the car that's going to come off the car, I got the fenders put back on just so that way I can start working them. Then on the front right here, I want to show you some of these crow's feet that we got going on. So if you can see anywhere like right there in that area, these types of cracks, those little crow's feet, those go all the way down to the metal. So the only thing that you can do to properly address that is to take the hood down to bare metal, epoxy prime it, then you got your regular primer, sealer, base coat, clear coat, all that stuff. So we're just going to bring this down all the way so that way I have a nice foundation. Bring the hood down to bare metal, part of the front fenders down to bare metal, but I don't need to do the whole thing. I'll just end up feathering out some of the edges, the roof, everything else. Everything else looks okay. So this is a pain to do, so I want to get that knocked out first. Alright, so at this point we have the hood and part of the fenders down to bare metal. The hood, like I said, I did the entire thing. The fenders, I only focused on the areas that were really messed up. It wasn't necessary to come down to the vertical surfaces. So I kind of feathered that out. I'll blend it a little bit as I'm spraying the primer. The primer that I'm spraying, well, the type of primer that I'm spraying is epoxy primer. Usually epoxy primer, DTM, direct to metal. That's what you want to do before you do any kind of body work. The hood was in good shape. I'll still block it out and make sure there's no dents in it or anything, but the first step is going to be to lay down that epoxy primer. And also on the fender, there was a dent as well. I worked it out with my hammer just a little bit, and you can see that I haven't put any filler on it. I'm going to need to put filler on it, but I'm going to wait till after the primer dries. We want to lay this down as a nice foundation first. So let's just go ahead, get this mixed up. We'll lay that down and we'll be good to go. Good progress for video number 1. With this car, the primer laid down as good as you would expect epoxy primer to lay down on a metal hood. What can I say? It looks fine. So with this car, like I mentioned briefly a little bit ago, I have some stuff on the way to do some cool custom touches to the car. They are going to be subtle, but they are also going to be very Bodie Vision-esque, whatever that means. So in the next video, I have some content on the way on the 1988 LS swapped Honda Accord, so I know you're going to love to see that. All the updates on this car. I cannot wait to show you the color. It is a color that I'm picking. It is going to be, as someone who paints, you know it's going to be a good color. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Like this video, comment, subscribe, do all the stuff you know what it is, YouTube. I'll see you on the next one. I'm out. If you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button, dude. We're trying to get to 100K. And I know you watch the videos and you're not subscribed. Come on, man. Just hit the button, Joe Byron.